Transcendental Prasadam distribution ki jai. Go Premanandi. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
This corner to this corner. Just right. Oh, there. That's at least the mark that I saw.
Okay.
That's where the camera is.
Yeah. Yeah. You. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Have you fun?
Yeah, little. Thank you. Actually, this one, moving this, loosening this should rotate this. Okay. And then because we don't have any slack, this won't move. So once you have slack there, then this can move. Right. This is just to extend this back and forth. And then doing this brings it down. Okay. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the daily morning Srimad Bhagavatam class at Sri Sri Radha Kalachandjiram. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। ओके, प्लीज रिपीट। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Can recite the prayers and translation together. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, One should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Okay, Canto 4, Chapter 8. We'll do text 35 through 38 today, and our focus verse is text 35. So this is Canto 4, Chapter 8, titled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves Home. So before we get into this, what has happened so far? What did we do yesterday at least? Yes, Drishta, you want to get the mic?
Well, Dhruva left home, and then Narada Muni saw Dhruva. Narada Muni was like, "Oh, you should go home. You're too young for this, and like, shouldn't you be interested in something else?" So yeah.
Yeah. So yesterday was Dhruva Maharaj's encounter with Narada Muni and his instructions to Dhruva Maharaj. Basically, what Narada Muni said yesterday was, this should not really affect you, Dhruva. This was his instruction, right? This is the material world. There are always going to be dualities here. There are going to be heat and cold, like that, honor and dishonor. But then all this should not affect you, really. And he said, you go home, you're a small boy, and once you get old, you can perform these mystic yoga practices that you've come to the forest to perform, right? And today we're going to see what Dhruva Maharaj's reply to Narada Muni is, this section that we're going to read. So let's start with text 35's translation.
Dhruva Maharaj said, "My dear Lord Naradaji, for a person whose heart is disturbed by the material conditions of happiness and distress, whatever you have so kindly explained for attaining a peace of mind is certainly a very good instruction. But as far as I am concerned, I am covered by ignorance, and this kind of philosophy does not touch my heart."
Yeah. Text 36.
My dear Lord, I'm very impotent for not accepting your instructions, but this is not my fault. It is due to my having been born in a Kshatriya family. My stepmother Suruchi has pierced my heart with her harsh words. Therefore, your valuable instruction does not stand in my heart.
Dustin, do you know what a Kshatriya is?
A warrior.
Yep. Dhruva Maharaj comes from a warrior clan, so he's mentioning that, saying it doesn't really, I'm not able to accept your instructions, Narada Muni. Okay, let's continue.
Text 37. O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my father and grandfather. If you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow, by which I can achieve the goal of my life.
And the last text for today.
My dear Lord, you are a worthy son of Lord Brahma, and you travel playing on your musical instrument, the veena, for the welfare of the entire universe. You are like the sun which rotates in the universe for the benefit of all living beings.
Yeah. Is Narada Muni's reply that, is Dhruva Maharaj's reply that, yes, Narada Muni, I should not really be affected by heat and cold, let me go home? Is that what he's saying? Actually, no. He's basically saying, your philosophy doesn't touch my heart. This is what he's saying. And actually, Prabhupada, in that verse where Dhruva Maharaj identifies himself as a Kshatriya, says that the instructions that Narada Muni gave was for that of a Brahmana. But since Dhruva Maharaj was a Kshatriya, he was deeply inflicted by the wound caused by the harsh words of his stepmother, Suruchi. Therefore, at this point, he's saying, I see value in what you're saying. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, but I'm just not in a position to do what you're saying, Narada Muni. Therefore, please tell me the way to actually satisfy my desire. And what was his desire?
To achieve a kingdom greater
Greater
than
than?
his father.
Not just his father and his grandfather. Who is his father? Uttanapada. Who was he? No, he was the emperor of the entire world. Right? This was Uttanapada. Who was Uttanapada's father? Swayambhuva Manu. He was the father of all human beings. Right? This is Swayambhuva Manu, the progenitor from whom all of us came. Right? And who is his great-grandfather? Yeah, Lord Brahma. So this is practically the controller of our entire universe. Right? This is Lord Brahma. And Dhruva Maharaj wanted something that was even greater than Lord Brahma, greater than his father, a kingdom that because this was his problem, right? It was not just that he was not able to sit on his father's lap. Suruchi said, you cannot be the king. Although you are the elder son, you cannot be the king because you were not born out of my womb. So he wanted to be the king. This is the Kshatriya blood in him, right? So you said, I can't be the king? I want a kingdom that's even greater than my great-grandfather. That was his material desire. Just because you said I can't be the king, I'll create a kingdom, I'll get a kingdom that's even greater than my great-grandfather. And the means that by which Dhruva Maharaj is trying to achieve this is also very significant, right? Although, at this point, he's not able to accept what Narada Muni is saying. He's saying, don't be afflicted, go back home. He says, he states what his desire is in text 37, and then he says, if you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow, by which I can achieve the goal of my life. Just because he has this incredible material desire, he's not just trying to get it by hook or crook. That's why he is still requesting Narada Muni to say, please give me instruction. I have this material desire, but I want to get it by honest means. So you are like the sun, right? This is the example that's always given, is that the sun is impartial. The sun gives sunlight to everybody in the world. It doesn't see who it is giving sunlight to. So therefore, Narada Muni, being a great devotee, is saying, although I am afflicted by these material desires, you please don't be partial to me. You are like the sun. So therefore, you can impart these instructions to me by which I can get my desires in an honest way. This is the context for Dhruva Maharaj's reply to Narada Muni. So we'll go back to text 35, Sanskrit, and then we'll see what Srila Prabhupada says. Okay, there you went a little far. Okay, scroll down a bit to the Sanskrit. Yeah. Dhruva uvacha soyam shamo bhagavata sukha dukha hatatmana darshita kripaya pumsham durdarshosmad vidhaistuya Dhruva uvacha soyam shamo bhagavata sukha dukha hatatmana darshita kripaya pumsam durdarshosmad vidhaistuya. Do you want to chant? Dhruva uvacha soyam samo bhagavata sukha dukha hatatmana kripaya pumsam durdarshosmad vidhaistuya. Dhruva uvacha soyam samo bhagavata sukha dukha hatatmana darshita kripaya pumsam durdarshosmad vidhaistuya. Dhruva uvacha soyam shamo bhagavata sukha dukha hatatmana darshita kripaya pumsam durdarshosmad vidhaistuya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dhruva uvacha. Dhruva Maharaj said, Saha, that, I am this, Shama, equilibrium of mind, Bhagavata, by your Lordship, Sukha Dukkha, happiness and miseries, Hata Atmanam, those who are affected, Darshita, shown, Kripaya, by mercy, Pumsam, of the people, Durdarsha, very difficult to perceive, Asmat Vidhai, by persons like us, To, but, Yaha, whatever you have said. Translation. Dhruva Maharaj said, My dear Lord Naradaji, for a person whose heart is disturbed by material conditions of happiness and distress, whatever you have so kindly explained for attainment of peace of mind is certainly a very good instruction. But as far as I am concerned, I am covered by ignorance, and this kind of philosophy does not touch my heart. Purport. There are various classes of men. One class is called akamis, referring to those who have no material desire. Desire must exist, either material or spiritual. Material desire arises when one wants to satisfy one's personal senses. One who is ready to sacrifice anything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be said to have spiritual desire. Dhruva did not accept the instruction given by the great saint Narada because he thought himself unfit for such instruction, which prohibited all material desires. It is not a fact, however, that those who have material desires are prohibited from worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the essential instruction from the life of Dhruva. He frankly admitted that his heart was full of material desires. He was very much affected by the cruel words of his stepmother, whereas those who are spiritually advanced do not care about anyone's condemnation or adoration. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that persons who are actually advanced in spiritual life do not care for the dual behavior of this material world. But Dhruva Maharaj frankly admitted that he was not beyond the affliction of material desires and happiness. He was confident that the instruction given by Narada was valuable, but yet he could not accept it. The question raised here is whether or not a person afflicted by material desires is fit to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The answer is that everyone is fit to worship him. Even if one has many material desires to fulfill, he should take to Krishna consciousness and worship the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is so merciful that he fulfills everyone's desires. Through this narration, it will become very clear that no one is barred from worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if one has many material desires. Such an amazing purport, right? As devotees, we always hear this, right? We should never go to Krishna with our own personal desires. And we always say, this is pure devotional service. And of course, this is our aspiration, right? Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. That uttama bhakti or pure devotional service is defined as that devotional service that is devoid of propensities for material sense gratification, right? Anya abhilasha. There is no other material, our own selfish desires, and it is not covered by jnana and karma. I'm doing this devotional service so that I can get something. This is covering. But it is anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktirutama. That this is favorable activities, performance of activities that are pleasing in the service of Krishna. That is pure devotional service. This is the bar. But we see here that this was the instruction that Narada Muni gave Dhruva Maharaj also, that this should not really afflict you. This is the material world. Why is this afflicting you? But we see Dhruva Maharaj's position, that he is deeply afflicted by these material desires. This is such a big desire, right? All of us have material desires, but the desire that Dhruva Maharaj had was practically impossible. He wanted to be greater than Lord Brahma himself, right? A kingdom greater than Lord Brahma himself. This was the extent of his material desire. And therefore he is saying, I have so much of these material desires, I can't really take your philosophy. But he is not saying Narada Muni's philosophy is wrong, because we will see in the Srimad Bhagavatam where spiritual masters are actually, spiritual master's instruction is not really adhered to for the right reasons. And we'll see this when we read Bali Maharaj's story. But in this case, he's not really rejecting Narada Muni because of his instruction. He's valuing that instruction, but he's very thoroughly aware of what his position is. Right? This is such an incredible thing. There are two ways of going about doing this, right? One is you should never have material desires. You have material desires. One is you pretend you don't have it, that you just suppress it. And try to behave in a way that you are not. Try to behave more advanced than what our position is, right? And we're trying to suppressing it and act in ways that I don't have any material desires. And what happens is these material desires that are suppressed comes out in a really huge way. It basically bursts out at some point, right? This is a problem. Or the other thing that we can do is satisfy these material desires. Right? This is Dhruva Maharaj's position, that I have these material desires. Tell me a way by which I can satisfy my material desires. So for us to satisfy our material desires, again, there are two ways in which we can go about doing it. Right? One is we can go to Krishna and say, Krishna, this is where I am. These are my material desires. You please help me with it. Or the other way we could go about doing it is going to some other third party that is other than Krishna. You could be like the demigods, or like really powerful people, or politicians, or our friends who have means to satisfy our desires. But the Shastras say it is always better to go to Krishna, right? There is nothing that bars us from going to Krishna. This is Prabhupada's point in this purport. Ideally, we have to be akamis. This is what Prabhupada is saying. Akamis means we don't have any material desires for ourselves. This is our natural position also. As spirit souls, we are akamis. We don't need anything else apart from serving Krishna. But unfortunately, in our conditioned state, we have so many material desires. So does that bar us from going to Krishna? Absolutely not. Prabhupada is very emphatic about this point, that nothing bars us from going to Krishna for our material, for anything, right? So Krishna says that 4 kinds of people come to him in the Gita, right? Do you know who those 4 kinds of people are? Yes, Mother Kunti? You have the mic. Yeah, this is it. So Dhruva Maharaj comes under which category? Wealth. Distress also, but his main motive is wealth, right? He wants a kingdom that's so huge, so opulent. It could be a little bit of distress also. So Artho, Artharthi, Jnani, Jigyashu. These are the 4 kinds of people that Krishna says come to him. And do you know what is the adjective that Krishna uses for these 4 kinds of people in the same verse? Yeah. Jana Sukritino Arjuna. He says they're not bad people. In fact, he doesn't even keep them in a neutral position. He says they're very pious people because they're coming to me. Although in many ways it's a very transactional thing, right? Krishna, I'm going to do this because I want this. Most people come because of that. They want a return that's unlike anything that you will get in this world. In the stock market, you're not going to get 1000% returns. But with Krishna, we expect that. I'm going to do this, but I want something that's so incredible that like Dhruva Maharaj wants in this case, right? But even then, Krishna says such people are pious people. And we read this again in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto about the kinds of people that should perform bhakti. Does anybody remember that verse? It's actually a very famous verse. Prabhupada is actually paraphrasing that verse in this purport. Do you know that full word? Bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. Bhagavatam says, akama sarva kamova moksha kama udaradi. That you are akami, which is basically what Prabhupada is quoting. You don't have any material desires, right? That is that category of people who are pure devotees. Sarva kamova, you have all kinds of material desires, right? Or moksha kama, you have this desire to even get liberation, right? Akama sarva kamova moksha kama uddharati. For all these kinds of people, for all these categories of people, what should we do? Tivrena bhakti yogena. We should one-pointedly try to practice devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yajeta purusha param. This is Bhagavatam's recommendation, right? Now I want to discuss why that is the case, right? Why it is the case that anybody can go to Krishna. How is that? We all know that Krishna says in this in the Gita that what is this? That he says, Yahi samsparsha jabhoga dukkha yone evate atyantavanta kauntaye nateshu ramate buddha. Krishna is very clear that if you have material desires, it will only result in misery. Right? This is Krishna's statement. Dukkha yone evate. It's only going to result in misery. But yet, the prescription that the Gita gives and the prescription that the Bhagavatam gives is even if you have material desires, you go to Krishna. Which means there is something incredible about this aspect, right? Other than going anywhere else, we go to Krishna, something wonderful happens, even if we have material desires. This is what will be demonstrated in this story of Dhruva Maharaj also. But I want to discuss on why we should go to Krishna. What is it that is different when we go to Krishna with our material desires rather than going to somebody else? Any ideas? Can you get the mic?
He fulfills it in such a way that we lose our...
Yeah, this is the extraordinary capability that Krishna has. He fulfills our desires but in a way that actually removes the material desires. If you go to somebody else, they're not really thinking about what is good for you, right? We see this at our work, or even in the scriptures. At our work, if you want a raise, the only criteria that they look for is what? Have you hit your targets? Have you done this? If you've done this, you get your raise, right? The boss or the manager is not really looking at why do you want the raise? What are you going to do with it? Are you going to go and drink and do drugs and spoil yourself by doing this? Nobody cares really about what we're going to do with it, right? We see this in the case of Hiranyakashipu also, right? Incredible austerities. He did what he had to do to get the boon. Lord Brahma came, gave him the boon. He didn't really know what he would do or how he would handle the boon that he gave, right? And what happened as a result of it didn't really take away his desire, but in fact made it much worse in the case of Hiranyakashipu. So the incredible thing that Krishna does in our lives is he gives, somehow satisfies that desire, but at the same time removes that material desire. It's somehow, it's like you eat dal and you get a small stone in the or it's like adding a little sand to kheer or something like that, like Krishna will satisfy it. Okay, you take it, you're so attached to it, but then you remember that this is not what is going to give you happiness, right? Somehow he removes that desire from us. What else does Krishna do?
So, because Krishna is absolute, and whenever we come in contact with him, then we automatically, it rubs off on us, you could say. So even if we come to Krishna with some dirty thing or something like that, it can't help but be cleaned when it comes even close to Krishna.
Correct. So this is something very similar, right? So if we come to Krishna, because Krishna is so pure, just being in contact with him purifies us of our desires. Okay, what else? Yes.
Like in the 3rd chapter, Krishna talks about yajna. Yajna means, it is translated as prescribed duties. The Vedas, they come from the Supreme Personality, and the prescribed duties given in Vedas, when they are followed, there is a connection with the Supreme indirectly.
Yeah.
And that's how there is a purification, there is gradual elevation.
Yeah.
Like we see, like other isms, Islam, for example, they are allowed to marry 4 wives, right? They are allowed to have. So there is a gradual elevation.
Yeah.
That is the whole purpose, because a person cannot give up it altogether.
Yeah.
So, slowly, steadily, there is gradual elevation.
Yeah, that's a very nice point also. In fact, this is Krishna's point to Arjuna also, right? Arjuna was a Kshatriya. He didn't want to fight the war. He just wanted to go and be in the forest. And Krishna is saying, right now you're trying to do something that's alien to your nature. But then this will come up when you go about taking your begging bowl and trying to beg for food and people are not going to give it to you. Your Kshatriya nature is going to come out. You're not going to be in that humble state and saying, okay, this is what it is, right? So all of us have these material desires. But what happens with Krishna is that he is like a parent to us. He in fact says this, right? Aham bija pradapitaha. So when we go to the parent doesn't just see what the child wants. The parent also sees whether it's for the welfare of the child, right? So even if we have material desires, when we go to Krishna, he is thoroughly seeing whether it's actually beneficial for us. This is again in the example of Hiranyakashipu, we see that Lord Brahma didn't really see whether it was beneficial for Hiranyakashipu to have that boon. He said, okay, you've done all this, you've checked all these boxes for you to ask for a boon, and you get it, right? But whereas with Krishna, he cares much more about us rather than just seeing what we have performed to get it. He looks for our welfare and he looks for our benefit. Therefore, even though we have so many material desires, we might not be granted everything very soon. It might be a very gradual process. And through that gradual process, we are elevated from This is basically the entire yoga ladder, right? This is the place where you are doing karma yoga. You're so attached to activities and you still have so many material desires, but you see or you're very much aware of the Supreme Person, and then you say, okay, I'm going to do things in proper ways so that I get it from the Supreme Lord. And when we're doing this is what it happens, is that we are elevated in the yoga ladder, and we say, why am I doing what I'm doing? Right? We come to that point. Initially, we're doing things, thinking a big kingdom, a big house, a nice car, so much money will actually satisfy us. And we're trying to do things from that perspective, right? And when doing things with Krishna in the equation, what happens is we start moving to this platform of questioning. Okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? This is not really helping me. This is the dhyana slowly, right? Krishna gives this knowledge also when we are trying to do this. What else? You're missing some very important things. What does Krishna say about things that we get from demigods? Yeah, it's antavattu phalam tesham, right? That the things that we go and ask from somebody, if they give it, Krishna says, has two properties to it. One, it is limited, and two, it is temporary in nature. Because Krishna is unlimited, he can practically satisfy Dhruva's desire. You will see it. And in the same example that we go and see in the case of Hiranyakashipu, what was his desire to go to Lord Brahma? What was his first desire? What did he first ask? To be immortal. Did Brahma grant him that? Why? Because he himself is not immortal, right? He is limited. So he cannot really give you what he doesn't have. And the nature of the things that we get from the demigods are temporary in nature also. You get it fast, but it's limited and temporary. That is the nature of the boons that you get from the demigods. But whereas with Krishna, because he's unlimited and he's eternal, he's always there for us. Because our desires are constantly going to change, right? The Vedas say for good health, you go to the sun god. For your peace of mind, you go to the moon god, like that. So many different people, you have to go for so many different things. But with Krishna, one-stop shop. Right? He can award us anything that we want, and he's always there for us, life after life after life. So he's coming with us. Even if we don't look at him, Krishna is constantly there with us as the Paramatma. Right? What else?
If I'm getting you right, that we finally get to the point where we realize that Krishna is fulfilling my desires, and it's really nice. So why don't I just go to him at every moment?
Yeah.
So like, even if I'm having a tough time, I still go to him. If I'm everything, you just go to him for everything, because
four kinds of categories, right? Wealth, or if you're having a tough time, or if you want to know something.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, I don't think. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking more of like, if we're having a tough time, I guess that's just stress. Okay. Yeah.
What else? Yes, Pro. Gokulanand Pro.
If we look at the original sin, right, why we are here, Ichha and Dvesh, desire to enjoy independently from Krishna, and we envy the Lord. So this is a reversal when we go to Krishna.
Yeah.
That makes him happy.
This is such a nice point. When we go to Krishna, there is something implicit that we do. What we do is we accept Krishna's supremacy. We can only go and ask from somebody who is superior to us in position, isn't it? If we know that somebody is not superior to us, cannot satisfy what we are trying to do, we're not really going to ask them, right? This very nature of us going and asking to Krishna implicitly conveys that we are surrendering to Krishna. Krishna, I agree that you're supreme. You're much, much better than me. I was thinking I am the master, right? This is the dvesha, the envy. We wanted to be masters, but then we agree that Krishna, you are the master. Therefore, I've come to you. And think about the nature of this master. look at the masters that we're trying to serve in this world, like our bosses or anybody else that we have superiors in this world, is that they're trying to somehow get something from us. They're trying to extract something from us. It's always transactional, isn't it? In fact, it's more that the masters in this world are ungrateful masters, right? But Krishna is such a grateful master. He's so supreme. He absolutely doesn't need anything from us, and yet when we go to him, he feels so happy, right? Especially with the devotees. Even if we have material desires, when we go to Krishna, we clearly know that this is my Lord, right? And from that perspective, it's a very sweet thing for Krishna. It's just like our children coming to us, right? The parents are in a way happy that the children are coming to them, right? It's in fact sweet for Krishna that his devotees are actually coming to him rather than going somewhere else. From Krishna's perspective also, this is a good thing. Because from devotee's perspective, it's not very transactional. We're not really doing this because, Krishna, I'm going to give you $500 so that you can give me this. In many ways, this is very transactional, but it's especially in the case of devotees, it's definitely not a transactional thing, right? Here, we, like Dhruva Maharaj, we agree that, Krishna, I have these material desires, but where else can I go? I can only come to you. We accept this, that Krishna's supremacy, and go to him from that perspective. So in that way, it's very pleasing to Krishna also. But eventually we want to get from there to a much higher platform, and it will happen as a result of us going to Krishna, because it's very purifying. And one other thing that actually happens that's even more amazing when we go to Krishna is that we start developing a relationship with Krishna. We start discovering a relationship with Krishna. Over time, we actually exactly know what Krishna will do in a certain situation. Now, this is what all these devotees are, like Mother Kunti's prayers is exactly this. She clearly knows at some point when things go out of hand, Krishna is going to come and protect her. Our relationship with Krishna actually deepens as we go to Krishna every single time. And as we get purified, the relation starts getting more mature. And we start asking Krishna, Krishna, what can I do for you? Instead of always going to Krishna and saying, Krishna, can you do this for me, please? Can you do this for me, please? At some point, our hearts become purified and we start asking this question, Krishna, what can I do for you? And you will see this in Dhruva Maharaj's case, when he describes so famously when he sees Krishna, right? This desire to have a kingdom so great as his great-grandfather, he compares it to what? Broken pieces of glasses. Krishna, I have this diamond in front of me. Whereas what was I looking for? I was looking for these broken pieces of glasses. And what is the feature of a broken piece of glass? It's sharp and shiny. It reflects a lot, right? Think about one glass and all these broken pieces of glass. It's very nice and shiny. But then when we try to pick it up, it actually harms us. This is the nature of our material desires. This is what Dhruva Maharaj is realizing, right? Krishna, I was having all these desires, but they were like broken pieces of glasses. They were actually going to harm me. Whereas I have you now, Krishna. What need is there of these broken pieces of glasses? This is the transformation that all of us can go through if we go to Krishna. Krishna makes sure that this happens. And what does Krishna do to Dhruva Maharaj? Do you know? I'm going much ahead in the story. But, yeah, he says, it's okay, Dhruva. He sees even the faintest of desires that we might have and satisfies it in such a way that we may be purified. And he says, okay, you be the next king after your father. Then after that, you will get your own planet to rule, and then you will come back to me. His desire was satisfied. At the same time, his desire was purified. Right? And then Dhruva never forgot that what he had. This is Dhruva Maharaj. This is somebody who had incredible material desires and the result of him going to Krishna. And as we get purified and purified and purified, and when we come to this point of pure devotional service, then we can actually be like Prahlad Maharaj. Look at all these prayers that Prahlad Maharaj is praying to Nrsimhadev. Did at any one point of time during distress, Prahlad Maharaj ask for anything from Krishna? Look at the amount of distress that a 5-year-old boy, 7-year-old boy went through. It's incredible, unimaginable distresses. Not once did he ask for anything from Nrsimhadev, from Krishna. And when Nrsimhadev asked him, Prahlad, you please tell me, what can I give you? What was Prahlad Maharaj's reply? Oh Lord, please don't treat me like this. Please don't think that I was doing all this so that I could get something from you. You know, we will come to this point. This is the power of devotional service, right? Akama sarva kamova moksha kama udharati tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. Whether we have all kinds of desires or whether we don't have any desires, if we perform devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it will take us to perfection. This is bhakti. That there is no bar for anybody to perform devotional service. This is it. The only thing that is required for us to perform devotional service is what, There's just one thing that we need. Little bit of faith. This is how it starts. Adav Shraddha. Little bit of faith. And then devotional service is so purifying that it takes care of everything. So is there any questions or? Yes, Kelly, you had something.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you for class. It's really, really great. A lot of nice points. I am curious because we see Dhruva Maharaj, though he had this great big material desire, he had a lot of determination. So even when he was, Narada Muni gave him this method to achieve his desire, he was able to do it because of that strength of mind.
Yeah.
But what about one who maybe doesn't have so many material desires, or maybe not as big, but doesn't have so much determination? It seems like, I don't know, it can be kind of tough without that strength of mind.
Correct. Actually, this is very true. In the Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami says 6 things that can actually help our bhakti. Right? This is one of the qualities is determination. It says Utsahan Nishchayat Dairyat Tattat Karma Pravartanat Sangatyagat Satovrite Shadbir Bhaktir Prasidati. He says. Enthusiasm, patience, determination are very important in devotional service. Even if by our own strength, if we are not able to do it, right, that's where sadhu sangha helps us a lot. We might not have the determination on our own to somehow perform devotional service, but when we are in the association of devotees, by their strength, somehow or the other, we can perform devotional service. So at least in the beginning stages, when we still don't have that determination and that faith, our faith is very tender, right, when we begin devotional service. Till our faith strengthens, it's best to be in the association of devotees who can actually uplift us. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Tulsi Saki Mataji.
It was almost the same because Narada Muni said so many have failed, and Dhruva Maharaj wasn't deterred and he didn't fail. So why is it that Dhruva didn't fail and the others did? But I think those are the same points you mentioned, right?
Yeah, I don't know why the others failed. If somebody else has any thoughts on that. But Dhruva's determination, one good quality that he had was he had incredible determination. That we can see, right? Come rain or shine, he was very fixed on what he wanted. That quality actually made him succeed. And of course, the mercy of his spiritual master Narada Muni was there. But this quality of determination is what I think made him succeed. And the other thing also is when we are practicing devotional service, it's not a one-way thing. Right? Krishna is also helping us from the other side. Whereas we see, the other example that I can think of is Vishwamitra. Right? In other processes, you're trying to do things on your own, and very little things can actually take you far away from what you're trying to do. But devotional service is so potent that Krishna is also trying to help. The mercy of the spiritual master is also there. On top of it, you have your own determination. Then that leads you to success. At least those are what I
I
think.
had another question, but yeah.
I was thinking also that Dhruva was intelligent enough to ask his mother and then hear good instruction from his mother and follow it.
Yeah.
And even from his enemy, Suruchi, he heard good instruction, you know what I mean? And he was willing to follow it, which is kind of unique.
That's a very nice point. And one thing I would add to this is that the very theme of what Prabhupada's purport was is to be aware of where we are. Right? If we are aware of what our position is, we're not trying to do something that's artificial, which is going to make us fail. Right? Dhruva is very clear. I'm not at the position where you're asking me to be, Narada Muni. I still have all of this. Please tell me what I should do for my position. Right? When we're trying to act in a position that we are not in, trying to be more advanced than where we are, then it's very problematic. Right? You're trying to fight two things. One is it's already problematic in the material world. On top of it, you're trying to do something that's you're not really at. Then how are you going to succeed? Right?
Question was asked by his disciple to his guru. We have been toiling like anything, and it's such a hard process. How come Dhruva Maharaj, he attended within 6 months? So then Guru Maharaj took him by his hand to one place where there was a huge pile of ashes and the bones, and said, "This is Dhruva in his many, many lifetimes. He performed austerities, he gave up his life, again he performed his austerities." So that's how he became Dhruva.
Yeah, it was not a... yeah. It's happening over many, many lifetimes. It's not just a... Yes, you had something.
And another question was that Dhruva Maharaj said because he's a Kshatriya, he couldn't take the first instruction. But when the austerities he was performing, he didn't take the Kshatriya route of like trying to wage battles or anything. He took a route of performing austerities, which may not be a very Kshatriya nature.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a contradiction in what he did to achieve, his problem.
Actually, austerities are not just the domain of the Brahmanas. Different people do different kinds of austerities. You see, even the Kshatriyas have to perform so much austerities to gain their martial arts or whatever, right? Their focus. It's not an easy thing to be a Kshatriya because it's a matter of life and death. You better be very focused. And for you to be very focused, you have to perform austerities to gain that focus, isn't it? So I don't see that as something that is specific to just the Brahmanas. But the modes in which they perform the austerities might be a little different, because this is a austerity in the mode of passion. Right? He wanted to perform austerities so that he could gain something. Whereas the Brahmanas perform austerities just because it is their duty to perform those austerities. Yeah, I mean, what kind of austerity? The entire world was feeling the heat of it. Right? The fire that was coming out was burning the entire universe. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, that purport to that verse. I don't know if we'll read it. This austerity has begun, and then he comes to a point where he's standing on his one toe, and at this point he's not even breathing. He's closed all his holes of his body. At that point, the entire world feels suffocation. You know what Prabhupada writes in that purport? He says, it is not very difficult when we read Dhruva Maharaj's story that one pure devotee can actually change the whole world. Because just this one person performing this austerity by closing all his holes in the body could actually affect the entire world. Right? So this is at least paraphrasing what Prabhupada is writing in that purport. It's a very nice purport. Yes, Drishta, you had a question.
I was kind of curious, you were talking about how when we repress these kind of material desires, they'll kind of build up and then they'll eventually explode. And then it's like super ugly or whatever. But I've also heard from devotees of this concept of like fake it till you make it. And I heard these memories by Mahatma Prabhu, and he wanted to be like a famous rock star one day, or something like that. And he ran the idea by Prabhupada, and Prabhupada kind of like shut it down. And then like, yeah, there's many desires that we have, and if we kind of just like, you know, postpone them long enough, eventually he will just destroy those desires over time. So I'm kind of wondering what's the stance? Do we present these desires before Krishna, or do we just say, I'm not going to look at you until I'm purified of you, you know?
No, I think it depends on what these desires are, right? With Dhruva Maharaj, this desire was so strong that it was impossible for him to really avoid it. And also this cycle that Krishna gives is dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kama krodho bijayate. When we come to this point of lust, at that point you can't really hide away that material desire. Initially we have desires, right? Dhyayato vishayan pumsa. We are contemplating on the object of the senses, and then that turns into desire, that turns into attachment. Till that point at least you can recover from it. But when that attachment turns to lust, you need to get it. When you try to suppress it, it's going to be very difficult. So that's basically what I would say. It's a context to context, right? Depending on what those desires are, whether those desires are essential for you to live. Like with Dhruva Maharaj, he was not able to think about anything else other than just getting a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather. Are those desires so strong for you? If those desires are not so strong, then probably you can live without it. If those desires are so strong, and if you try to somehow repress those desires, it's not going to be pleasant, right? So that's basically what it is. And bhakti has this quality because it takes out the desire from the root. We've seen this in the Nectar of Instruction, right? Sat Krishna nama charitadi sitapi avidya pittopatapta rasanasya narochikanu kintwadvarad anudinam kalusaiva jasta swadvid kramat bhavati tadgata moola hantri. Even when we present these desires, when we are trying to practice devotional service, what happens is these desires are uprooted from the root. Whereas when we are trying to do something else other than bhakti and trying to satisfy our desires, it is just like adding ghee to fire. Those desires never go away. So it's better to present it to Krishna and do it in a thoroughly honest way, like Dhruva is asking. Right? Narada Muni, tell me an honest way by which I can get these desires fulfilled. Yeah? Okay, I think we should stop now. But we can discuss after the class. I can be here for some time. We are already like 9 minutes over time. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय।